Hi everybody, so we're on the quest for the perfect sourdough bread, and today we're going to try doing this with measuring with a scale rather than by cups, because I think that's going to be a little more efficient. So the first thing that we did is we put in 352 grams of organic white flour, and then we included 163 grams of Spelt flour, which is this one here that you saw in the caption. So those are the two flours we're going to be working with for our bread today, our sourdough bread. So the way that we're going to measure this is we're going to put our bowl on the scale, and on my scale there has a 0, so I'll hit 0 until a 0 shows up, which means it's not including any of the weight that's in the bowl right now. And then from there, we're going to add 342 grams of water. So I'm slowly pouring this in here so I don't go over the weight that I need, which you could do in a separate bowl if you want to be safe, but I'm on the risky side, so here we go. I'm not thinking that a cup's going to get us there anyways, so this is a cup of water, and that was 170 grams. So we need a little bit more. So this is my second cup. We're trying to get to 342 grams. Let that keep going. 275. Now that we have 342 grams of water, I'm going to go ahead and use our dough whisk to incorporate the water. You want to have warm water, not hot, but a bit warm. It's typical for getting the yeast activated to have a little bit of warmth. Now that we have the flour and the water mixed well together, we're going to go ahead and autolyze by letting it rest for 30 minutes. The flour will absorb the water. Okay, now that we've let our dough autolyze for 30 minutes, we're going to go ahead and add our sourdough starter. So we're going to do 107 grams of our starter. So we zero this out, and we're going to go ahead and start adding. Now that I've added the starter, I'm going to add the salt. It's a sea salt, and I measured it and weighed it. So it was 12 grams. It's almost a tablespoon, but yours might be a little bit different depending on how coarse it is. So we're going to go ahead and add that in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use two methods. One's a pinch and one's a fold to incorporate this. Got to get this mixed in first. So this is the pinch, just pinching it in, kind of incorporate the starter and the salt. And then the fold is just folding it over. If it gets to be too sticky, I have a little container of water next to me that I can damp my hands. You don't want to fold it, or you don't want to stretch it to the point of breaking, because that will ruin the gluten. So you want to try to stretch it without breaking it, and then fold it over. Turn, stretch, fold in. So you want to continue doing this for about 10 minutes. Now that we did the stretch and fold and the pinch method for about 10 minutes, we're going to let it sit again for another 20 minutes. And then we're going to repeat that process 3 or 4 times. This is basically our kneading process for the dough. I went ahead and did 3 sessions of a stretch and fold. Each I did about 8 to 10 minutes of stretching and folding. I let them rest 20 minutes between each time. After the 3rd time, which is the one I just did, we're going to let it rest for 30 minutes, and then we'll do one last stretch and fold before we let it proof. We did our last stretch and fold, and now it's time to let it proof. It's really cold in here, that's why I'm wearing a beanie. If you have temperature under about 70 degrees, you're going to want to just leave it out on the counter to proof. If it's really hot, hotter than maybe 75 degrees in your house, you can go ahead and let it proof until it's reached about 20 to 30% of its proofing height. If it's really warm in your house, above maybe 73, 74 degrees, you can go ahead and wait for it to rise about 20 to 30%. Make sure you cover it. Now what I did is I put a little bit of oil, and I'm using a shower cap that you can take next time you go on a trip from the hotel room, or you can just buy them in bulk. And I put a little bit of oil in there, and I just move it around like this. So in case your bowl is more shallow, and it happens to reach the top of this, it's not going to stick. So I'm just going to place this over the top of the bowl. If your house is warm and you let it reach 20 to 30% of the rise, go ahead and stick it in the refrigerator from there. That'll allow you to have a slower ferment process, and you'll have more of a sourdough flavor. Since my house is cold, I'm not going to refrigerate it. I'm just going to keep it in my house because my house is like a cooler right now. And I'm just going to let it sit until it reaches double in size. Our dough rested on the counter for about 3 hours. And then at the end of the 3 hours, I put it in the refrigerator. It refrigerated for 10 hours, and then I pulled it out and I molded it to put into our banding tin. This flour smells really sweet. I've never worked with it before, but I'm anxious to see how it turns out. Now we're gonna let it rest in the banding tin probably for 5 to 10 hours. Just depends on the weather. It's pretty cool in here. It's maybe 65 degrees. So we're just gonna go until it's double, which will probably be just to the top of this banding tin bowl. And then once it's risen to the top of that, we'll go ahead and bake it. We are back to reveal our masterpiece. Crossing our fingers that it comes out of the bowl this time. Oh no. This is like waiting for a baby to be born. Come on. You can do it, Junior. It's slowly wanting to do it, but maybe you'll just like give it a little bit of help. I'm seeing the lines. I'm getting it off. It's not sticking. Okay. It looks like I'm gonna have to do a little circumcision here, because this part up here had a little bit too much air in it, and I'm hoping, because you don't want to re-knead this dough unless you're gonna wait for it to proof again, because if you do that, it's just gonna flatten. But it's pretty flat anyway, so I'm not sure that it's gonna hurt it. I'm gonna put a little bit of flour over the top, just because it looks nice when you pull it out. It really did come. There's nothing stuck on here at all. It was coming out. It just, as I was pulling, it was just pulling out like this, and then the part that was just stuck to it a little bit created like an air pocket between the bulk of the dough and the part that was stuck here. So hopefully what will happen is we'll put it in there and we'll rise. But we say that every time, it never happens. So eventually one day we'll get a rise out of this. One of the things that I'm working with is trying to keep the rise from the proofing when we go to cook. It seems like every time I transfer it from a bowl or Banington, it flattens out. The bread is really, really good though, so it's frustrating. My starter is really bubbly, so it looks really, really good too. I don't know what's going on except for overproofing, which I don't understand, because you want to have a double rise in order for it to be ready, yet if you wait too long, it ends up flattening out. So if I can get a little bit of rise while I have it in the oven, then I'll be happy with that. But we're still working through this, so let's get the ovens preheated to 450 degrees. I have the Dutch oven already in there as well. As soon as that's ready, we'll throw the bread in. Our oven is preheated to 450 degrees, and we're gonna go ahead and put our flatbread in our Dutch oven. And she goes. Bye-bye. It looks like we got a really decent rise once we stuck it in the Dutch oven, which is awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and set it on the counter and let it cool off so that we can taste it. We're back. I got bored waiting, so since I had such a huge mess in the kitchen, I had the KitchenAid out, all the measuring cups were dirty. Look what we got here, chocolate chip cookies. So I had a million things going on at once. The fire alarm went off. I had the leaf blower trying to cool it off to get the smoke out of here from I don't know what, maybe a chocolate chip was burning, I don't know, but these are so good. If you were my neighbor, you'd be really happy right now, because my neighbor's really happy right now. Got flour all over me. We're gonna try this bread and see if it turned out. We have a little bit of a rise. It looks pretty decent. It could be like a hat, but we won't use it for that. We also have another baby growing. Smells good. Doesn't dough smell so good? So this one's our next one. Our starter was really looking amazing. So I'm like, oh, let's go ahead and just make another one and keep trying, since this is really about trial and error, learning the ways that work in your kitchen for you, because even though there's a lot of instructions out there and they're all so different, yours is going to be different too. So following those is a good guideline, but you have to kind of use your intuition too and figure out, you know, what's going to work in my kitchen, and what out of all the things that I've learned can I incorporate, plus a little bit of my own, to make this happen. So next one is getting ready. We're going to go ahead and cut into this bread and see what it looks like on the inside with our little handy dandy bread knife here. It's a lot easier to cut into, a lot easier, using this spelt flour. Whoa, this is awesome. Look at that. It is, oh, this looks so good. I was a little worried because it felt a little bit spongy, that it might not turn out on the inside, but it looks amazing. I'm super excited, because even though it's not really, really tall, like some of the bread you buy in the grocery store, that bread is used with commercial yeast, and we don't want to use that. That's not so good. We're going to use homegrown yeast. So now we're going to go ahead and try our bread. I mean, I'm just so impressed with this. This looks amazing. I was so worried it would be chewy inside, and it's perfect. It's horrible. Just kidding. Wow, I love it. Has a really good sourdough flavor from the refrigerator. Again, I love the proofing in the refrigerator, even though it really doesn't proof. It just sits in there and does nothing. But what it does do is add the flavor. And between the new flour that we tried and the resting in the refrigerator, we'll call it, the flavor is amazing. The texture's great. I love that. Can I say it? Couldn't have asked for more, really, except for a little bit better of a rise. This is how tall it got, but it's taller than my last batch, so that's awesome. I'll have some for breakfast. So anyways, I hope you guys like this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future videos. It was great to see you guys. Hope you're all having a great day. So I just wanted to mention that I'm really thankful for you guys, because I used to have a really good neighbor who moved away. Every time I made something, I always brought a portion of it over to my neighbor. And I really felt good about that, and I got a lot out of that. And since my neighbors moved away, I haven't been able to do that. So making these videos for you guys has brought more purpose for me. Although I can't share the actual product that I'm making with you, I can't give you a cookie or piece of bread, I can at least share the experience with you. So thank you guys again for watching. I really appreciate it.